1, 2, 3. Gotcha. Well, I just wanted to say good day, good morning, good evening. Whenever you are tuning in, I'm so glad you're here. My name is Jill. Most of you know that. And I wanted to do just a little bit of a video before the Thanksgiving holiday because I have so much going on in my head about what I want to say. I'm never going to get started again. So we're just going to take a deep breath, relax, and I'm going to see you on the other side because the name of this video is I Don't Want This. This is a conversation I have in my head all day, every day. I'm going to explain. Deep breath. So if you've been with me a while, you know I've talked about this idea before, this whole I don't want this. And I thought, you know, what better day to talk about that than the day before Thanksgiving when I am grateful for. And some of us, not all of us, some of us have a brain that's very negatively wired, and I happen to be one of those. And I get super focused on what I don't want. And you've heard me talk recently about I don't want to problem solve. I don't want advice. I don't need that. What I need help with, and this is something only I can do for myself, is moving myself through the emotional process of what I don't want and getting past that into the actions that I do want. And sometimes there's nothing I can do. Sometimes I just have to write it out. And you know, there's a lot of ways we can call that, and I don't want to get clinical or therapeutic because, you know, we could go around and round on that. But I wanted to bring it up because I had this thought this morning where, you know, I spent a lifetime moving myself through experiences that I didn't want. And, you know, I forget how far I've come and how bad it used to be. But I find myself with that same set of feelings, and I'm like, but I don't feel terrible about my life. Why have I been feeling so terrible? I can't seem to get ahead of all these terrible feelings about I don't want. And I think the big shift is for me, and I don't think I'm alone in this, is that it isn't I don't want about my life. It's I don't want about life. You know, when I think about everything terrible that happened to me, you know, for so many decades, it was all about me, right? The rest of the world was just humming along, and I could have a breakdown. I could step away. I could have temper tantrums. I could cry. I could retreat. I could, you know, emotionally do the work I needed to do. But the lights turned on. There was food in the grocery store. You know, there's always been people suffering. But there was still the fabric of our society, you know, our culture, our civilization. It was pretty certain, strong, and stable. That was the cushion. That was the safety net that allowed me to do what I needed to do to move myself both through and forward. And now I find myself in this spinning place. You know, I've started to talk about nervous system, and, you know, my primary response is to fight, but I have been frozen so long because every time I think about what I want to do, I'm confronted with this, I don't want to do what's happening out in the world. Like, I don't want that. Like, I can't do what I want because I'm slamming up against all these things that are happening out in the world that I don't want. So much uncertainty. It's creating a lot of fear and a lot of instability or unstableness, you know, within my confidence to take steps forward. And, you know, I go a little out that way and it slams. I go a little out that way and it slams. And that gets really depressing and overwhelming. And so I thought, you know, I bet I'm not the only one having this experience where I don't feel tragic about my personal life, but I feel like there's so much tragedy in the ethers about what's going on when you're aware. I'm not talking about, you know, when you're kind of disconnected and not paying attention, you know, that kind of thing. Boy, the light is doing something weird. Sorry about that. But I wanted to just touch on that because this whole energy of I don't want this creates a lot of resistance, and that's what gets me stuck. And so I spend a lot of time trying to move through that, and there's a lot of reasons why and a lot of ways through, and I would like to talk about that more on another day. But I just wanted to bring up this idea of Tomorrow is a day in which we are thankful for everything that we have. And as bad as everything is, we still have a lot. Even the poorest of us have a lot. And so I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who've been with me for so long, for you supported me, you bought my stuff, you're on Patreon. By you investing in me, you're really allowing me to move some of these processes and messages forward that I think are important. They're not about my personal stuff. They're about what's going on out in the world. And I hope those of you who have been with me will hang in there, because I think we're really moving towards something that's important. We're getting into the emotional resiliency stuff a lot more in depth, especially as the new year hits. This is the holiday season. We are a little distracted and overwhelmed, but I just want to say thank you. And it's so important to get back to that thankful gratitude place, even though there's almost nowhere you can turn, whether it's resources, gas, jobs, relationships, health, money. Even last night it rained and I have moved the trailer and I managed to put myself in the muddy spot instead of all the nice sandy spots where I haven't had mud in the trailer since I moved over to this place. And I'm like, I don't want this, as I'm surrounded by mud, and Freedom, of course, has dragged all this mud in. So it's a real feeling. There's a lot of resistance about the energy of I don't want this, but it is something that can be moved through. And so with that, I am moving myself through by saying hello to you, breaking the conversation in my head and focusing on this idea that I am super grateful for all of you who hang in there with me. Have a fabulous Thanksgiving, and I, my friends, will see you next time.